Hi everyone, it's Linda from LyndaCreates. I decided to do a project that is sort of hinting at Halloween, but not quite Halloween yet. So I'm doing this, I drew this fun little cat. And what I'm going to do is transfer it onto some fabric, but I'm trying another method. I'm going to use Reynolds freezer paper. It's supposed to transfer really well, allowing you to print off of an InkJet printer. I'm also going to take you along and show you how I actually drew this cat. And I know it looks funny, the eyes look funny, but it's sort of an anime style eyes with highlights. I have some white felt, and this is the the freezer paper that I already cut. I have my sketchbook here because I'm going to show you how I drew this. And I have some white fabric. I'm not sure if it is pure cotton or if it's a cotton poly blend. I'm guessing it's a cotton poly blend, but we'll see. It has a very nice weave, so it should come out really nicely. And then I have my colors. Again, I'm not sure these are the colors I'm going to go with, but I knew I had to have the black, a lot of black, and we'll see what color the bow comes out. So let me show you how I did this drawing. I just wanted to share some little tidbits from my sketchbook that started off this project. There's the first cat that I drew, and he had a little ruffled collar, and I kind of liked the face, but I decided he needed a little bit more class or cuteness, so I added a bow. And this is the thing about sketching in your sketchbook, is that you can scan this in later and put the other face onto the bow or the bow onto the other face. So from there, I played with it a little bit more, and I decided that I'm going to add a little more texture to the cat. So it has a little fluff on the sides, but then I decided I was going to make it look a little more like an anime cat. And I know the eyes look weird, but you could see how I kind of want to do it, shade it up in the top right corner there. So that's where the overlay sketch ended up, and you could see it's on tissue. And then that ended up drawn up on the computer into this image. And the next thing I'll do is I'll print it out on the fabric. So I'm going to try a different way of transferring my image to fabric to do my next embroidered hand-stitched patch. I'm starting with the freezer paper, and I cut it to a size of 9 inches by 11.5 inches. It is about a ½ inch larger than a standard sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper. So I have that cut. And then I took a piece of this white cotton blend, I'm not sure, fabric. It's a very tight weave, so it's very nice. And you want to do it in a good quality fabric when you're doing this. So I'm going to, before I start anything, I'm going to iron it so that it lays flat. I don't want any wrinkles. It's ironing beautifully, so probably is, well, I was going to say it probably is a blend. I'm going to set it to a medium heat. And if you look at the freezer paper, there is a shiny side, and then there's a matte side. So we're going to adhere the fabric to the shiny side. So if your fabric has a right side and a wrong side, you want to turn the shiny side towards the wrong side of your pattern. But I'm going to do it this way because my fabric is a little bit smaller. I just want to make sure that have everything covered. And now I'm going to iron it with the medium heat, and I'm going to do it a little bit there. I'm going to move it over, and you want to make sure there's no wrinkles. You want to take your time with this. You want to make sure it adheres really well, especially along the edges. Okay, once you do it on that side, you could flip it over, and now you want to iron on this side. And you do the same thing. You really just want to make sure everything is going to be attached well. And this again is done on medium heat. Okay. I'm using my quilter's cut and press. So I'm just flipping it over to the cutting side. And now, because my fabric, I just want to make sure my fabric is 8.5 by 11. Just want to make sure it's all going to fit okay. Okay, once you have everything cut out, so it's 8.5 by 11, you want to go through and get rid of any little loose threads that might be sticking out, because you don't want anything to get caught in your printer. Okay, so once you have it the correct size, we're now going to set it up to run through the printer. Well, let me set it up on the computer first, and then I'll run it through the printer. So on my laptop, I'm sharing the screen, I have 2 images, well, 4 images, but my cat and a pumpkin that I'm also going to do. But I'm concentrating on the cat, and I have a smaller one over here. So that's going to be a smaller embroidered patch, and then I have a larger one. I figured since I'm printing on the fabric, I may as well print a few extra images to see what I want to play with. I may use a larger one for a different type of stitching or something like that. So I'm just utilizing all the fabric that I have in there. So I'm going to go ahead and print this, and you could do Command Print. Now I'm doing setup, and I'm sending it to my InkJet printer. 1 copy. I'm not printing in color. And let's see. Paper type, I don't have a lot of choices, so I'm going to let it do auto select. Quality normal. I could do best. Let's do best. Paper handling, it's coming through normally. No watermark. And I'm going to go ahead and send it to print. And in this particular printer, you have to put the side that you're printing on upside down. I'm just waiting for it, and I can see it from here. So once it's done, I'll go bring it back here. Okay, so just have to say, it printed beautifully here and down here. The one piece I needed, it has some ink scuff marks, and those are quite annoying, but I'm going to be stitching over all of this because it is a patch, so I can use it, but normally I'd redo it, because that is funny. The one piece I needed got the scuff marks. I think it's my printer. It went through okay, so I don't know what to say. It does work. I'll just keep going on this, and if you're going to need the printout, if you're going to use it for something else and you want it clean all around, this won't work. But because I'm stitching it, and I'm stitching it with black, so it'll be even easier. So now what I'm going to do first is I'm going to remove it. Let me do it this way. I have my iron heating up, but I'm going to remove it from the freezer paper. And you want it to cool a little bit before you do this. And you want to peel it off carefully. and you can see where it's stained. But you can also see where it peeled off beautifully. And the fabric's just as soft as it was when we started, so that's just so wonderful with this. I'm going to heat set it now. I have my iron turned up to a higher setting, and I'm going to just set it with heat. And like I said, I'm going to use bits and pieces for other projects, so I'm also setting my pumpkin down here. I'll do the pumpkin as another embroidered patch, and it's a shame that the one piece, my one cat in this corner here, got the brunt of it. So what I guess I would suggest is that do some test runs on your printer. And if you have glitches that happened up in this corner, just move your art further away from it. It was just something that happened. But you can see how soft the fabric is. And I'm going to use this one for another patch. But this is the one that I want to start sewing on as a patch. And I pulled out some white felt. So I'm just going to attach that to white felt and start stitching, and by the time I'm done with it, you won't see any of this other inky mess. Again, you do what you have to do. But it is a nice way to do it. It's freezer paper is relatively inexpensive. This is just a nice cotton blend. I'm going to call it a cotton blend because I'm not sure. And you just, with a little care, print it out through this was an InkJet printer, and I have to say my InkJet sometimes does this on regular paper as well, so I don't know how much of it was a fabric and how much of it was just, I may need a new printer, but it worked well with the InkJet. So let me go ahead and, well, I could do that right now. Just going to cut this piece out. And you want to leave a little extra fabric around because we're going to do a little stitch to hold it in place. So let me do it this way. And I'm stitching it onto, this is probably more of a medium weight. It's just craft fabric. And I have to say, I have been loving doing these embroidered patches. So let me go ahead. I actually have, I'm just going to keep going since I have everything ready to go. Let me get a little closer. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just take some just regular thread, and I'm just going to do little stitches around the outside, basically where the just areas to hold the two fabrics together, the felt and the fabric, just so they don't move around as I'm stitching. And it's just a very loose running stitch because it'll be cut away later, but you just want to keep everything together. So there's the basis of the whole thing. I'm going to start stitching. I always like starting in the middle and working my way out. I think the nose I'll do pink. Now the cat's going to be black. The eyes are going to be green. Or should the pink be a softer pink? I think I'll do the softer pink and just see how that goes. You know, sometimes you just kind of have to play around with the color, and that's kind of the fun part of it. So I'm starting with like a medium pink. I'm just holding that tail back there. And I'll catch it. And basically what you're doing is just nice, neat little stitches. to fill all the areas solid. And don't pull it too tight. And after a while, this becomes a really relaxing just stitching process. And when you finish stitching, so instead of tying a knot, you just go to the back and you go beneath a couple stitches and you do it again, and that secures your thread so you don't have to tie a knot. So I was trying to decide how I was going to stitch the eyes of my little cat. And I know I wanted to use green, but I was trying to figure out what part's green. I brought out my markers, my Copics, and I played a little bit, and I just wanted to show you where it came out to. I could either do the whole eyeball green, or I could do an outline green. And I decided I'm going this way because I kind of feel it needs the white to soften it up. Okay. And another thing I want to show is that I think I need a new printer, perhaps, that this is not a unique problem with fabric. It wasn't the fabric. I had issues with paper too. This is just paper. So I'm going to start with the black part of the eye. So I'm just going to keep stitching, put in a few guiding lines, and then I'll come back in and fill it in. So there's one eye, at least the black parts of it. Okay, well there's the two eyes, at least the pupils. And I'll just keep working on the next part. Okay, so I've been stitching on the eyes, and I have the darker green around the edge and a lighter green, it's hard to tell, but a lighter green for the highlights at the bottom. And I did the little white dot here and the little white dot there. Okay, I'm going on to the next eye. So I have the eyes finished. Now, I was trying to figure out what color this area in the mouth will be, and I decided on a medium gray color. So I'm just doing guiding stitches along to make sure I'm going straight. And these are just the filling in stitches. And I have to say, I am so enjoying doing these little drawings and then stitching them without, and by making them into patches, it's sort of like their simple purpose is defined right then and there. So anyway, so there's the mouth. I also want to share a little tidbit of information, public service announcement basically. So I'm going to do the cat. It's going to be a black cat for Halloween kind of thing, and I have just a little bit of my black floss on this card. You can tell how old it is, and someone gave me this bobbin of black floss, and I don't know if everybody is aware of this, but even though they're both DMC and they're both the same number, 310, that colors do shift a little bit, especially, oddly enough, black, because as you know, there's all different shades of black. So I did the eyes in my old black because I just have a little left, but instead of using that for the face, for the fur I should say, I'm using a brand new full skein of black floss for the fur, because I know that this color will all be the same. If I introduce this, it may be a patch that is just slightly off, and your eye may notice it, and it will be very annoying. At least for me, it'll be very annoying. So I'm going to use a full skein of black to do the head, but it's always safest to use, like in a large area that's one color, to use a single fresh skein. So that's what I'm going to do for the face. I have these little lines in my drawing that I think I'm going to add in later in my gray, the same gray I used on the mouth, and I may use a little white, or in an odd twist of fate, I might use a little blue, pale, pale blue, because sometimes black fur has a sheen to it, and it has a little bluish cast, or it may have a really pale reddish cast. I don't know. So I'm going to play with that, and I will make that determination as I work. But as I stitch, I'm going to remember where the highlights are around the cheeks, around the upper part of the nose, and just along the top a little bit, and the ears will be lighter in there. So I'll just keep stitching. I think, let me do it this way. I have my friction pen. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw little cheeks on this guy. Yeah. So I drew, I don't know if you could see that. Oh, there. You could see the little cheeks. So all I'm going to do with that is do my same color, but I'm going to go in a different direction so it stands out without being a different color. And I'm going to start at the top of the mouth with some guiding stitches. Okay. So I always like to start with guiding stitches. It just makes the whole thing better. I realize my cat is looking really funny, but I have to kind of stop here because, well, I'm going on a trip and I won't have time to finish this today. So I'm trying to do as much as I can, but I think it's going to be a two-parter. Well, I know it's going to be a two-parter because I want to finish this stitching. These are my guiding stitches, so it's not going to be a striped cat like that. I'm going to fill it all in with black. I did the face and I did the muzzle part in vertical stitches. You can see that. And the eyes, I started doing the eyes with white around the edges and a little bit of green. And I happened to go to a Petco today, and I was looking at the cats up for adoption, adorable, but I noticed that they have no whites in their eye, no whites around it. So I came home and I pulled out, I had stitched some white in there, pulled that out, and I went back in with the green, and so that took some time to finish that up. But again, I'm going to keep working on this face and the whole cat itself. I'm going to end up with an embroidered patch. So come back next week and I'll have the completed video. But for right now, if you enjoyed this video so far, and I'm sorry it's a rush, but like I said, I'm not going to be available for a few days here. So part one of my Halloween cat stitched embroidery patch is partially done. So please hit that like button and subscribe and hit the bell and leave a comment. I love reading the comments. And come back next week to see how this ends up. I'm sure it'll be really cute. So, and please check out my website, LyndaCreates.com. That's Linda with the Y. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next time. Bye.